Here's a real curiosity in the city of London, just a short distance from St Paul's Cathedral. This is Christ Church Greyfriars, or rather it was. These days it's a ruin that's been turned into a public garden. Let's investigate. There had been a church here since the 13th century. The Greyfriars were a Franciscan order who had a monastery here. It soon grew into a major church, second only to St Paul's in London. In 1538, though, the order was dissolved in the English Reformation, as were the other monastic orders in England. King Henry VIII donated the church and its buildings to the Corporation of London. One of the downsides of the Reformation was that many of the poor who had previously been taken care of by the church now had nowhere to go. The monastic buildings of Christ Church Greyfriars were therefore turned into a charitable school, Christ's Hospital, which was officially chartered by King Edward VI in 1553. In 1666, the church was destroyed by the Great Fire of London, and so Sir Christopher Wren was commissioned to build a new one. Wren is of course most famous for his work on St Paul's, but that was only one of 52 churches in the city that fell under his remit. Christ Church was to be rebuilt on a smaller scale to the medieval building, on top of the old foundations, but, like all of Wren's churches, in my opinion, was still very impressive. The rebuilt church opened in 1687, with the tower being completed in 1704. The church continued to be an important part of ecclesiastical life in the city, but the times were changing. In 1902, Christ's Hospital moved out to Horsham, putting a significant dent in the congregation. The coming of the railways and the growth of the suburbs had caused many locals to move out of the city, thus further depleting the congregation. The final blow, in more ways than one, came during the Second World War. On the 29th of December 1940, the city was hit by an air raid. A firebomb fell through the roof of Christ Church. The resulting fire blazed through the night, despite the best efforts of the fire brigade. By the morning, the church was literally a shell of its former self. The wonderful antique fittings had been totally destroyed, save for a carved font cover that's now in St Sepulchre without Newgate. The walls were severely weakened, and of course the roof was now completely gone. The question arose of what to do with the old building, or what remained of it. It was hard to justify the reconstruction of a church that had been in decline even before its destruction. But on the other hand, it would be a shame to let a wonderful Wren church vanish, especially when so much of the stonework survived. There was a call to turn it into a permanent memorial of the Blitz, not least from the Times. In 1949, the Church of England officially decided not to rebuild, instead merging the parish with the aforementioned St Sepulchre without Newgate. In 1950, the ruins were Grade 1 listed, which is a rare honour that essentially means you'd better not knock this down ever, under any circumstances, for any reason, ever, or historic England will be down on you so hard that you'll wish you'd got in front of the wrecking ball. That being said, in 1962 the southeastern corner of the church was knocked down to make way for road widening, which was later undone, so the ruins got knocked down for nothing in the long run. On a happier note, the tower had been rebuilt and strengthened in 1960 to ensure its long-term survival. In 1989, a garden was laid out within the walls. It was designed to mimic the interior of the church, with the flower beds being placed where the pews would once have been, and these wooden trellises representing the stone columns that held the roof up. One interesting feature to note is this stone pineapple or pine cone. In heraldry, the pine cone is a symbol of the inexhaustibility of life. I'm just speculating here, but I suspect Sir Christopher incorporated them to represent the resurrection of the old city church. And now it takes on a new meaning. The destruction of the church has created a new green space for the benefit of all. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then I'd be most grateful if you would leave a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. If you'd like to visit the garden yourself, it's very near to St Paul's Underground station, as well as the Cathedral and the Museum of London. Thanks as ever to my donors on Ko-fi and Patreon. You are the Christopher Wren rebuild to my medieval ruin. And I'll see you all again very soon. Cheerio.